I think long-term, yes, to a certain extent. For the time being, Apple's still in a phase right now where smartphones and other types of consumer gadgets are getting an exemption, no matter where those products are being imported into the US from. So Apple at this point is not going to have to pay those additional tariffs. No matter how high they go, we're still in exemption territory. But at some point, that smartphone exemption is going to run out. I believe it's in a couple months from now. And at that point, Apple will need to begin paying tariffs. That's not going to have an impact in all likelihood on the September quarter, but more likely on the December holiday quarter. And they have some padding in there anyways, given that's typically their most revenue-rich quarter of the year because all the new products really come out during that period. What I will note is we're in for basically a yo-yo game here. Apple's going to have to be moving things around dependent on where the tariffs are going to hit. They were very quickly able to move the majority of US iPhone production out of China into India. They'll again probably have to shift it around depending on where they're going to get the biggest savings. But at the same time, I do believe that the behind-the-scenes discussions between Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, and President Trump will continue to try to get as many exemptions for as long as possible on the company's products.
Well, and President Trump has been pretty open in stating that he wants smartphones to be made in America. How much production of the iPhone do you expect to be moved to the States?
None. I mean, they'll certainly make more components. They'll certainly claim they're doing some sort of manufacturing here, maybe small items, maybe things like packaging, maybe the final component manufacturing here. But in terms of the large-scale mass manufacturing that you see happening in China and India, at this point, that's simply not replicable in the United States. Even if Apple were to claim that they can do it in the United States on a logical level, I wouldn't anticipate that being able to happen at any mainstream quantity as long as Trump is president, if his term runs out in the beginning of 2029.
All right, I want to switch gears because you've got some great stuff, Mark, on the Bloomberg and out at Bloomberg.com, your Power On newsletter. You talk about Tim Cook talking to his staff and really giving them an AI pep talk. What did you learn? What are you hearing?
So Tim Cook held a rare company-wide meeting. This is for all employees in Cupertino. The fact is earnings was a huge beat. Tim Cook wanted to come out and celebrate. Hardly anyone was anticipating 10% annual growth. I don't think that's a long-term thing. I think it's a short-lived thing because of people wanting to buy the phones before anticipated price increases. You saw a lot of people coming on TV and lying that the phones are going to go up to $3,000 or $25,000. People got scared. They ran to the stores and they bought them. Who wants to pay $3 grand for a phone anyways? That's why you saw that 10% hike. He focused on a lot of things, but my big takeaway was artificial intelligence, talking about how this is something Apple needs to be a major player in. They need to grab it, they need to own it, they need to innovate, they need to invest in. My big take from that is this was a pep talk that Tim Cook should have given 3 years ago, right? We're at the end of 2025 here. The ship has sailed on AI, and Apple is not going to be able to make a meaningful impact at this point unless they make a major acquisition or a significant partnership.
Well, don't you expect them to do one of those two things? I mean, there's so much talk about, well, I guess I read Dan Ives' notes all the time. So at least he talks about Perplexity a lot and the fact that he thinks they should buy them. And they have made partnerships, most notably with OpenAI, right? Mm-hmm.
I think what Dan Ives is writing about was my story from 2 months ago saying that Apple's having serious internal discussions about buying Perplexity. And then he put his note out multiple months after that, agreeing with my take on there. So that's what you're seeing there. But Apple is contemplating Perplexity, depending on what you see with the Google search deal. Also serious contemplation around Mistral, which is a pretty popular and famous maker of large language models and other underlying AI tech out of France. There's all sorts of complication there with the European Union and the difficulties of an American company buying a French company, especially with the Digital Markets Act and all the policies happening in that region of the world right now. But I do anticipate Apple to make a series of AI-related acquisitions. I wouldn't believe there would be anything north of 10, 15 billion. There's no Anthropic here for 60, 80 billion or anything like that. Certainly OpenAI is a pipe dream of the Apple faithful, but I anticipate them to make some maneuvers there. In that meeting, Tim Cook indicated that 40% of the new 12,000 hires that Apple has done over the past year were R&D. They're shifting around some teams within the software engineering organization to focus more predominantly on AI. So they are making the maneuvers. It's just too little too late, if you ask me.
Well, and let me just ask you, the AKI team, what do we need to know about that? And are they now in on a chatbot or a ChatGPT-like, vehicle for Apple? Because it sounds like they've gone back and forth here.
Yeah, so AKI is this new Answers, Knowledge, and Information group. The person, Robbie Walker, who was in charge of Siri was removed from him because of all the delays and multiple issues. I don't have to go through unless you have an hour, I don't have to go through the laundry list of problems with Siri, but that was taken away from him. Now he's building a new answer engine, and this is designed to be an AIification of search. Again, this is all prep work for the anticipated breakup of the Apple and Google search deal. Apple's going to lose billions a year on this. They need a replacement. This is a good time for a reset.